Hello, welcome back to the Status FX Gaming channel. I'm Status FX, and today I wanted to go ahead and give us a little bit of an update, as well as touch on two different builds that I played in Ultimatum League. And it actually has been a while since I put out a YouTube video, and the reason for that is just a bunch of things got in the way, life got busy. I played some other games on Twitch recently, but now that there's a new announcement coming within the next 3 days for the new league, I have decided that, okay, it's time to go ahead and start talking about Path of Exile again. So let's get right into it. So the reason I wanted to bring up these two builds is that this one was my league starter, and then the Impale Cyclone Gladiator that we're going to be talking about in a bit was one that I ran for a Badger private league. And if you don't know who Badger is, he's another YouTuber. That build I created specifically for that private league, and again, we'll discuss that build in a bit. But both builds actually use the same skill, which is called Petrified Blood, and that is the skill I wanted to really focus in on today, because I think I'm going to be using it in my next league starter. I don't know what that starter is going to be yet, but there's some really cool things you can do with Petrified Blood, and I think it's worth bringing up. So before we go ahead and get into Petrified Blood too much, I wanted to go ahead and just briefly discuss how my version of this Inquisitor is working. I do also want to say that Big Ducks did have a build guide for a Bladefall Blade Blast Inquisitor, and I did take some ideas from that build, and if you want to check it out, definitely do so. It's really cool. But I have done quite a few things differently than him, though, too. And that is mostly what I'm going to be touching on today. So the thing with the Inquisitor is that he now has an ascendancy point called Pious Path, which will help us regenerate energy shield by a lot. So any life regeneration that we have when we're standing on consecrated ground is getting applied to our energy shield as well, which means that the Inquisitor is a very good class now for hybrid life energy shield builds. And I also want to point out that I didn't push this build enough at all, and I could be having a lot more energy shield here, and a lot more life as well. But effectively, we have a pretty big life pool, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit too. So I decided to go ahead and put on the Replica Soul Tether. Now, in Big Ducks, I was watching Big Ducks on Twitch, and I was noticing that he was getting a bunch of criticism for his Bladefall Blade Blast Inquisitor because of the defenses of the build, and I believe that with the Replica Soul Tether, I actually can't even remember if he was using it or not, but I believe with the Replica Soul Tether, in combination with Petrified Blood, this actually fixes the defenses very nicely. So this gives you Corrupted Soul. It also gives you a percentage of your maximum life as extra energy shield. And you can see that when we take off the Replica Soul Tether, this is a lot. This is a big amount of our energy shield. So this is a huge defensive layer for us. And I, like I was saying, I have another Inquisitor that I've done where I was using the same thing, and I have a lot more energy shield in life. I think the effective life pool is something like 10,000. It was a lot. So how Corrupted Soul works is that when we take damage now, we are getting 50% of that damage is getting applied to our life before our energy shield. So we're actually depleting both our life and energy shield at the same time, except for chaos damage, which still just goes all to your life. It bypasses your energy shield completely. It does not make any changes to that whatsoever. But because we're getting the damage spread out more evenly between the life and the energy shield, and then we're regenning both very, very rapidly, this is actually a huge, huge buff for us. It's so nice. And then when we combine that with Petrified Blood, it works even better. And I feel like that is the major difference here. from the two builds. And I think that it really, really makes this build very nice. By the way, my gear on the build right now is pretty bad, actually. Like I said, I didn't really push this build very hard in the league, and it was mostly because I switched to playing that Freezing Pulse Totem build, which I did already make a video about. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look here at Petrified Blood. So, how the skill works is that your health cannot recover life above low life, and low life now is 50%. So we're always going to be at 50%, which means we can also take Pain Attunement now, which is another really nice thing because it buffs the our damage a lot for our you know, Blade Fall and Blade Blast. So the other part of it is that when we take hits or damage from hits, when we're at 50% of our life, 40% of life lost below half life is prevented. Then a percentage of that lost life is given back to us over the next 4 seconds. So it effectively turns 40% of the damage you're receiving into a degen, which when you have a ton of life regeneration, it actually works really, really nice, which is why I think Petrified Blood on the Inquisitor is, if you're doing a spell build, you can go low, you can go Pain Attunement. I just think it works so good together. Just make sure you build a lot of life regen, which I've done. You know, I did go out of my way to take some pretty silly nodes, like this one down here, but also it's giving us strength too. And, you know, for the critical strike chance here from Righteous Providence, the strength is actually pretty nice. You know, we're not getting any lost things by going down here, maybe except for the increased physical damage. Actually, no, that's getting converted to fire, so we're fine. So anyway, yeah, no, this is actually really, really nice. And again, I don't really have that many cluster jewels or anything like that because I haven't pushed it enough, but we are going crit, and our damage is really high. That was never the issue with this build. It was always mostly just the defenses. Anyway, I would like to go ahead and show a little showcase for the build, and then we'll go ahead and start talking about the next character and how Petrified Blood actually works well for the Gladiator Cyclone Duelist as well, and some other ideas for how you could use the skill. All right, and here we have it, the footage for our showcase of our Blade Fall, Blade Blast Inquisitor. And as you can see, the damage is actually really good. This, I believe, is a tier 15 or 16 map. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, and you can also see that when we do take damage, our life does go down quite a bit. But then with that regen, it just comes back so quickly. So that's one thing to pay attention here, is just as we're watching this showcase footage, you know, take a look at our what the life pool is doing, and it's really fun to play like this too. You know, you do feel really tanky for a while until some big hit comes along and just blasts you away. But I do think that Blade Fall, Blade Blast would be better on something like an assassin. But it's still, again, the main reason we're bringing it up is actually the defenses. This is more of a concept video, showing off, you know, how you could, you know, no matter what skill you're using, as long as it's spell damage, I think that Petrified Blood would work really well, because you also get to go with that Pain Attunement, as we talked about earlier already. And also go ahead and just pay attention to like the amount of damage that we're actually dealing. Most of these enemies are dying with just the Blade Fall, but I am still detonating Blade Blast too, just in case. Another reason why I didn't really play this skill or play this build too much, and I lost interest, was that I wasn't a big fan of the clear speed with the skill. So next league, I will be doing something that hopefully has, you know, a really fast clear speed, as well as, you know, these really nice defenses. But I had so much fun playing around with the build. I would have liked to have played it a little bit longer. It didn't, you know, I didn't have the time, and I did go ahead and play, you know, the Badger Private League, which you're gonna see the build that I chose to play with that. We'll talk a little bit more about Badger Private League here in a second, once I start in on my Impale Gladiator. But yeah, you can see, you know, just tearing up this little syndicate encounter, and there goes the boss, or the syndicate member. You can see I got a little scared there because I did take a big hit, but we just regenerated it back, no big deal. And boom, we're done. So yeah, let's go ahead and switch on over to talking about the Impale Gladiator Cyclone guy. And here we are on our other character, which is the Cyclone Impale Gladiator. So let's go ahead and talk about his abilities and why Petrified Blood is a very good option when choosing a Cyclone, you know, Impale type character. You don't have to use claws, but that is what we're using on this. This was not my build guide, you know, or build originally that I followed. This was just for Badger Private League, and I don't play a lot of melee builds and things like that, so you know, it was actually really fun to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I didn't really want to try and come up with my own thing on the spot like that. So I can't remember the name of the YouTuber that made this, but you know, if I find it again, maybe I'll put it in the description. If somebody knows, you know, you can shout it out in the comments. Either way, what we have going on here is just a 5-link setup right now. Neither of the two builds are fully fleshed out. These are just concepts that we're talking about here, and just where I'm at as far as that goes. So we're using a bronze Lith Cutthroat garb for our Cyclone, which is actually pretty nice because you get increased damage while using movement skills. Cyclone does count as a movement skill. But the thing is, the main thing I want to talk about here in relation to Petrified Blood is Bloodthirst. There's no way that we could possibly use Bloodthirst without using Petrified Blood, because Petrified Blood helps us stay on low life. You can see now we're at 50% of our life pool, and we're not regenerating above 50%. That's really, really important. And the primary reason that we want to use Petrified Blood is actually due to a ascendancy point here, which is called First to Strike, Last to Fall. And basically how this works is that we get this buff called Adrenaline, which is super important. It does so much damage. You get a ton of life recovery when you use it, which I guess is not that important, but it does a lot more damage when you have Adrenaline going. I can't remember what the actual effect is, and maybe I'll figure it out later. But when you reach low life, if you don't already have Adrenaline, then you gain Adrenaline for 20 seconds. Now, the phrasing on that is important because that basically means that in order to keep getting Adrenaline, we can't just stay on low life and be happy with it. We need to be able to get to low life and then get back to non-low life, and then get back to low life again after we lose Adrenaline. So it's actually really, really easy to do this with Petrified Blood because you can just use the Life Flask, and Petrified Blood actually does let you recover this little tiny bit of life when you're using something like a Life Flask. You can't just simply expect to recover that if you have Petrified Blood active. The other way you could do this is just by removing Petrified Blood and then reactivating it again. I tried this out. I think that's what the guy does in his build guide. I tried doing that, and I don't like it that much. I would rather just use the Life Flask, because if you're in the heat of battle, removing that, and you have to wait for the cooldown and putting it back on, you're actually pretty vulnerable while you don't have your Petrified Blood on with this build. And I just think it's more consistent to just hit your Life Flask, it heals that back for you, and then you're ready to go. You know, it just procs for you immediately, pretty much. So anyway, that's how that works. And then, so basically we have a character which can essentially have permanent Adrenaline, and it is so good. It is so much fun to use. I didn't push this character enough just for the reason of time. So either way, we're going to go ahead and check out the showcase footage for this character and just see how that goes. Alrighty, and here is the showcase footage for the Impale Cyclone Duelist, and it was so much fun to use this. I can't stress that enough. We have a ton of movement speed with this build, and moving around with Cyclone, you know, dealing your damage and attacking and all that stuff is very, very nice. For someone with carpal tunnel, I think that you might have a little issue here using the skill. My wrist did hurt grinding out all these levels during the Badger Private League. Which, let's go ahead and talk about BPL a little bit. So, how Badger Private League works is that you get put into one of 3 teams, and based on your team, that will lock you into a choice of 3 different classes in the game. And so, I decided to do something that I wasn't super familiar with, since it was kind of in the spirit of the league in general. And so that's why I decided to use this. Now, I'm sorry I don't have something a little more meaty, per se, for content with this build. But, again, I didn't play it enough to really get there. But, yeah, I don't know. Just take a look at this, and, you know, you could see if this is something that you want to do for your league starter. Personally, I would do it again. I probably won't do it next league. I might try a different Cyclone build, though. But with Petrified Blood, you can, and of course all the life regen that we're getting from the claws, you can see, you know, you're staying alive pretty well. Take a look at this boss fight here. And this boss applies a pretty serious degen, but because of all the life on hit that we're getting from the claws, we stay just fine. Alright, so I'll go ahead and just give my final thoughts on both builds. In the background here, we have just a little bit more of the Cyclone Impale guy. And so, yeah, again, the main thing is that the thoughts I have are mostly on Petrified Blood right now. I'm not trying to say that the builds are like insane by any means. They were a lot of fun to play, and I encourage anyone to go ahead and give them a try. And if you want a build guide for either of these, please let me know. I will do my best to accommodate that, and you know, we'll get some more content out for these. I know I didn't really touch on the gear too much, or all the other little skills that I'm using. I will save that for another time, again, if people request it. But the main thing that I wanted to show today is just that Petrified Blood is a really nice skill. I think it's a great thing that they added it to the game, and that it really enables a lot of different playstyles and builds, because if you think about it, there's actually a way that you could probably run, you know, some kind of spellcaster on the Duelist now even. So I think they did, you know, Grinding Gear Games, they did a great job with this skill. I hope to see more skills like it. Maybe we'll get something, that does something like this in the next league coming up. Who knows? You know, it's being announced in like 72 hours. But it's definitely worth checking out. Not just for the Gladiator, but, you know, you've got the Inquisitor, and there's a lot of other builds that honestly could make use of it. So, anyway, I think I've talked about it enough. I hope that I have, given some people some ideas for what they could be doing for the starter leagues, or starter builds for the new league coming up. Look out for more videos from me about Path of Exile related content in the future. We're going to be definitely talking about the new league once there is more information on it, and I can't wait. I'm super, super excited. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and if you want to see what my starter build is going to be. I have some ideas, but again, I don't really know yet, so I'm not gonna discuss it right now, so that people can hold my feet to the fire, so to speak, on what build I decide to do. So, yeah, anyways, adios, everybody, and I hope to see you on the next video. It's been so much fun making videos for YouTube lately, so, yeah, can't wait to get more content out there for you guys. See ya.